Hello and welcome back to another episode of the CrossFit Harrow podcast, episode number 55. Today we have Lorraine, who joins us for the podcast to share her story. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things is what I was meant to say.
I can be extraordinary.
You can be extraordinary. Yeah, there we go. You are, in fact, you are. So, Lorraine, what originally, I guess a lot of people wanted to know was what brought you first to CrossFit Harrow?
My husband.
Ah, okay.
So it was, we didn't know anything about CrossFit, if I'm honest with you. Didn't know it existed. We wish we did a lot earlier than we had.
A lot of people say in general they wish they found CrossFit.
Yeah, definitely. So we've definitely come to it late, but it was him originally who, I guess, saw it advertised and then started to go to a box near where he worked in Hammersmith, actually. And then, he was doing it for, I'd say, about a year before I started getting involved. But he kept talking about it, and I could see how much he was enjoying it. And then that's when we sourced out Harrow and something local to me so that I could start doing it.
So at what point in that did you think, like, he's enjoying it, I might? Like, what was it? Because it was a while, yeah?
It was a while, yeah. It was a while. I was just continuing doing what I was doing exercise-wise as normal. But he had, I guess his mind on exercise had shifted to the benefit of doing all of the CrossFit exercises versus the boredom of maybe doing an hour running or an hour on a machine.
Yeah.
And I was very much in that zone still. So it takes me a while to move out and try something different. And I guess that's the thing, to get people to try something different. Because people are so used to doing what they're doing and thinking that's okay.
It's the whole change as well.
It's the whole change. So he just encouraged me to try it. I guess that is ultimately the thing. He encouraged me to try it. He brought me, I think it was probably Hammersmith that I went to first. Because I was working locally in Knightsbridge, so it wasn't actually a hard place to go to. And then we came to Harrow as well.
And started getting a few workouts.
And I must say, I got off to a bit of a false start because within the first couple of months, I got tennis elbow.
Okay.
And I was finding it very difficult, even doing it, and then got the tennis elbow.
Did that knock your confidence a little bit?
Yes, totally. And then it was almost like, oh no, it's not for me. It's not for me.
Because of the injury?
Because of the injury, and then I was so confused with the movements, and I was like, I'll never get this, and you feel constantly behind. But I got over the injury, and it took a while. And then I went back. I tried it again through Don's encouragement to try it. And it was a totally different feel the second time back. And I don't know what clicked.
Okay.
Something clicked
Yeah.
the second time. And either I was more mentally in the right place and zone for it, but I started enjoying it more, and I didn't put any pressure on myself to have all the movements and no one in the gym in CrossFit does, actually. That's the nice thing about
there's no
CrossFit.
External
there's
pressure,
no
really.
Pressure. Everyone starts at their own level, and everyone builds up. And I guess I was in the zone of tiny improvements, whether it's heavier weights or just getting your technique right, was motivating enough. Then helped by the fact that I spent the summer in Spain and was able to do CrossFit.
Well, yeah,
there.
I was going to get into that, because that would have had a massive, been a massive boost for you, right?
Yeah.
So through the period of, before we went into kind of a bit of lockdown, you went out to Spain and had the opportunity to train pretty consistently, right? And you obviously the warm weather.
I did 5 days a week there because I was off, and it was it was just so part of.
But as a family as well, became.
As a family, and that's the other thing with CrossFit. We have treated it like a family activity now.
Because the boys are into it massively.
Massively. They dread it. like they dread the CrossFit stage, but that's only fun because
Yeah,
they know it's hard work.
Yeah, I think we all dread it.
We all dread it, right?
In some way,
we all dread the CrossFit days, but then the satisfaction when it's done and how you feel afterwards is that nothing beats that.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably, I mean, when you make it a family activity, that's where it's more sustainable as well. I think that people will keep
together with doing
keep
it.
together.
And longevity in it as well.
Yeah. So we do it as a family. We do partner WODs as a family, and then we pick a kid each.
I often get messages from Donal. He sends me the workouts that he's done, and the boys are beating him or whatever. And I'm saying, Donal, you got to step it up a little bit.
Well, I am at that stage where they're just overtaking me.
But it's good for them, I guess. It gives them the motivation to, exceed. I'm better than mum and dad. Or I'm doing more than mum and dad. Like it's perfect. It's a great step into like moving into adulthood for something like being. I think anyway, being around fitness.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're football mad, and they've given up football to do CrossFit.
Yeah, well,
which is a huge thing.
It is, and I to some degree think that's quite a sensible decision because I think most males growing up, one of their dreams is I want to be a professional footballer.
Oh yeah.
And the reality will set in at some point that it's not going to happen. So actually go and explore activities that don't stop playing football because you enjoy it, but go and see other things. It doesn't have to be CrossFit; it could be whatever else it is. But
yeah, and it's funny because their friends their friends are like, oh, come back to football, and they're like, I hear them talking to them, and they're like, no, we do CrossFit, and but. It's funny trying to get them to explain what it is. They haven't really got that piece yet, in terms of knowing how to describe it.
They've just got to do it. The easiest way to say when someone asks what CrossFit is just try it.
Just try it.
Just try it and you'll find out exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the journey, like getting into exercise originally. Like at what point in your life, has exercise always been a thing of your life or is it not?
It's always been a thing. Married to Donal because you kind of have to. But I haven't always been as dedicated to it. So I've been hit and miss. So I'd go through phases like everyone, I guess. So, and I guess it's just the monotony of some of the exercises and that you just get tired of. Whereas that never happens with CrossFit because you've so much to learn. And you're always trying new skills and there's such a variety and you just, it just keeps it fresh. And you don't have to be good at everything either. That's the other thing. Everyone will have, I'm not good at the gymnastics side of things. It's hard when you're an adult coming in, learning some of that stuff when your flexibility isn't there. But, it's all little things and just doing a handstand or doing one is a remarkable thing.
And it's just that building on one to do, then two become three become four, rather than one becomes 10. It doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
But you've got a journey yourself that you started, a bit of a psychological transformation within you.
I call it my midlife crisis.
Your midlife crisis. Okay, we'll go with that.
My midlife crisis.
Let's talk about the midlife crisis.
So I gave at the start of lockdown. I made the decision to give up alcohol. Not really putting myself under any pressure. Okay. I did it on April Fool's Day, which is kind of
treating it as a bit of a joke.
Treating it as a bit of a joke, but not putting myself under pressure. Didn't put any timelines. I just said, I'm going to see where this takes me.
Let's do a contrast of before that decision. So how often would that become part of what you do day to day?
Drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, every day if I could get a benefit. Casually, socially, at home. It was a habit. It was a huge habit.
Yeah, so it is that social kind of, even for dinner or when you're out, and it's quite a lot of people.
But it was more what was kind of what I was getting tired of though was just drinking at home for the sake of it. Yeah. It's because it's just that. You come home from work and you had a good day, so you have a drink. You have a bad day, so you have a drink.
Well, it's equivalent to exercise. People exercise for the sake of exercising and they drink for the sake of drinking.
And I was just tired of it. And honestly, you could say that I was kind of like at that point at 45 going, I've kind of done my drinking. I don't regret a day of it. I had loads of fun growing up, but I felt it was time to kind of change. And it was also, I had been on a kind of a nutrition journey as well.
Yeah, I remember we spoke. Yeah.
Before that.
Where you started to implement some changes.
So I started to implement changes nutritionally, and then the alcohol was the last piece. So, and for me, it was like not having to tackle everything at once. And they do say that, take things off in bite sizes and try and tackle things. Yeah. And that's kind of what I did. So I tackled the nutrition side of things. And
that was with no alcohol, that was while still...
That was while drinking.
Yeah.
And so I got the kind of nutrition, but I was still drinking alcohol. Sometimes putting alcohol before food so that I could have my calories. So that's...
And how did you, when you were doing that and focus on the nutrition side, how did that make you feel? What changed? Was there any significant changes in terms of like your body, the way you felt?
Huge changes. I think I lost 2 stone.
Okay.
And felt great, amazing. But the alcohol was still holding you back.
Yeah.
And you don't realise it until you've stopped it.
Cut it, take it away. Yeah. You often don't find, you don't often find that things work, let's say as such, until you completely take it out and then reintroduce it. It's like you can then see the difference between the two, of how you felt before, how you felt after.
Yeah, exactly. And it took a while to really see the benefit, because in the first month you don't really see much. It was longer than that to really see it. I mean, you start to see small things. So I started it, and I'm over a year now.
Wow.
Without having had any alcohol. It wasn't what I would call hard to do it, because once you set your mind to something, it's easy.
I guess you replicate. So where you said before you were feeling great, it was also just replicating how good you were constantly feeling. Yeah. And that's often like, I think maybe like people miss that part. Is like they can't figure out why they felt so good. Whether it was because they had a good week's training, a good week's at work, but actually there were small little changes that you're just trying to replicate.
Yeah, and just that groggy feeling that you have, and there's, I think with lockdown as well, and exercise and nutrition, everyone is talking about your mental health, well-being, and alcohol just... It's so detriment to all of that.
Yeah, and was there any point going through that journey, so starting when you decided like I'm gonna stop drinking, that you thought that mentally it'd be quite tough, or like any mental challenges along the way? Any like weaker days that you thought, I wouldn't mind?
Yeah, there was, particularly at the beginning, because you're so focused on not doing it that it's like telling a child not to do something. That's when they want to do it, but. It goes, and that feeling and thinking goes. So the first couple of months you're constantly counting the days, and I always had a year in my head as my big challenge. I kind of said 6 months, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do a year now. And
it pretty much happened at a good time though as well.
It did happen, and I think that was the key for me, because there was no boundaries with work and home. Everything was at home.
Yeah.
Therefore,
there wasn't the social aspect either.
So in many ways it was easier because there wasn't a social aspect, but in many ways it was harder because most of my drinking was at home. So you kind of, you have to weigh up, and I don't really feel like socially I need to have a drink, because I'm an extrovert anyway. It's not something I need for confidence. So
and often people do it for the sake of like it.
Exactly. People have different reasons for it. Yeah. But so I did make the decision at the start, and then with that, because it's a hard thing to do, and because we were heavy drinkers, I would say, being Irish, and my husband was a heavy drinker, and he's a lot bigger than me and can drink a lot more, but he has cut down.
That was going to be a question I wanted to ask.
So there's a family benefit, because he's cut down massively. I mean, I would have laughed if you said to me a couple of years ago, we'd have something in our house that you can just open a bottle of wine to get a glass out of it. And we do now.
Yeah, it'd be...
And that is used.
If you open the bottle, yeah.
it would be when is the second bottle being open, because like we've been that's the way we were.
But I guess, like, you know, over the years where you built that habit of doing it through socials, doing it through home, it's also now you've undone that habit because you've replaced that habit with actually something where you've taken it away, but something different, and the habit has become, by the looks of things, and you know, working with you over the last couple of months and year, is that you've replaced that with exercise, putting the energy into that, your nutrition, just feeling good about yourself and doing things that support that.
Yeah, and then I would say, when I gave up the alcohol, because I didn't know, God, will I do this or won't I? Do you need other support to do something like this? I kind of gave, because it was lockdown, you had to do a lot of it yourself. There wasn't anything else. So what I did was then focus on the mental side of things. And I had a kind of a routine. So I read a huge amount on...
Did you find that helped you?
Oh my goodness. Huge. Like, listen to podcasts when I was out walking. I was always trying to educate myself and listen to good stories about people having given up alcohol. And a lot of these people were, you know, very ill from it as well.
Yeah, because there is that opposite end of the spectrum. Where
there is that it is a spectrum, and you know, I was on it somewhere.
Yeah.
I just don't know, but I was like, the way I was able to knock it was educate myself on it. So I did huge amount of reading. I'm always nosy about people's lives anyway, so autobiographies I love. So I used to get, you know, famous people's
sharing their story.
And sharing, you know, Russell Brand was a great one, you know, and he, you know, he's
quite a lively character.
He's so lively, but he's struggled with alcohol, drugs, and pornography. So he's addicted to all of them.
What a combination.
What a combination. So he, you know, but he's about 15 years sober and clean now. But, you know, that took a lot for him. And he clearly, I mean, for me, he has an addictive personality. I mean, that has to be his thing.
They're three big addictions.
Addictions, right, to tackle. And he has. And you know, he's heavily involved in the 12-step program, which is the AA mentality. But just reading about all of that and educated me. And then I guess the mental well-being side of things was how I meditated every day. I read every day.
Because I think there's a big difference between mental health and mental well-being. And they sometimes get, like, mental well-being for me is the things that you do to support your mindset, to encourage you to do better things, the things that make you feel happy. Whilst mental health is often frowned upon as something like quite negative, but actually you're just very aware that there's a feeling about something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I guess everyone has to consider mental well-being.
Yeah.
Because we all have to work at it.
Yeah.
But people don't see it that way.
Yeah.
Whereas mental health, I guess, is more...
when there's an issue. Yeah, when there is an issue. But but your body, I always feel that your body or mentally will tell you along the way, it'll give you signs along the way to say something you need to address, and whether you learn from that, it's up to you.
Yeah, and like, I got the idea that it was the 60-day challenge that helped me a little bit about, you know, what I wanted to do every day. So that was a great,
kickstart.
Head start. So, you know, I have this list of about 4 or 5 things that I like to do every day to help with my mental well-being. And, you know, I feel very bad if I don't tick all those off. And they're not hard things, but they're like, you know, as I say, that 10-minute meditation, 20 minutes if I have more time, but it doesn't have to be...
And that's actually quite a good way that you set yourself up, because often it's like, you know, let's say, relating back to fitness, someone wants to go to the gym, they're like, right, I'm gonna go 6 days this week and I'm gonna go for a second workout in the afternoon. You're like, but just start small. And essentially you've started small by just doing things that are very easy, but actually the satisfaction of being able to tick them off.
Amazing.
And it just encourages you to keep doing it, because you're like, well, it's like 5 o'clock in the evening and I've managed to do all my bits.
Yeah, exactly, and fit them into your day. And like, there's simple things like making sure I take all my vitamins every day. But it's like, again, that's just a habit. That you need to kind of get into.
And just incorporate it.
And incorporate, like drinking 2 liters of water.
I've spoke about that in a podcast about we're adults and we should be able to drink 2.5
exactly.
liters.
So, but it's not something that I would have done before, whereas now it's part of my tasks in a day. And
but it's the priority thing, isn't it? So if you said to someone,
thing.
Often people say I can't drink 2.5 litres of water, but if you ask someone to drink 2.5 litres of whatever it might be, bottle of wine, beers, or you have to do a certain thing by a certain time that allow you to go, like, people would do it. It's just where they're prioritizing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's how much it means to you at the time, what value it brings to you.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, and the nice thing about hitting the year, because I was very regimental about doing everything. Now that I feel like I have everything in control as well, I think the other thing is if you do have a day where something would slip or you weren't able, not to beat yourself up about it, because
it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. So like that's another fine balance you have to learn with yourself, and it's another balance of not going back to your old ways just because you've missed something, or you know, you just start again.
Yeah,
it's really that simple, and don't be hard on yourself about it. And then
it doesn't mean you have to do any more the next day. You don't have to work out anymore. You don't have to do anything else different. You just go back to what you've done.
Exactly, exactly, and that's important, because I think a lot of people think, oh, I've messed it up now. Well, just you forget about it, or you don't continue.
You're only day 4. You know, oh, fuck it. I'll go back to day 1.
Exactly.
No, I can't be bothered. I'll wait till next month.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the next time I feel like I want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
And how, like, obviously, you know, with work, it's a very corporate job.
Yes.
How have you managed, obviously, over this period of time, mental well-being with work and fitness, and how you like, what the things that go in, like what have you done differently, or have you amended or adjusted anything?
Well, I think being at home has kind of given everyone that more flexibility.
For a lot of people it's helped, because they can cook their own meals. They can
cook their own. I mean, the downside is food is available all the time. So in many ways, I think it's almost easier going into the office, because you have to bring your own food, or you have to think about it.
How did you separate yourself from work to you time, being at home, and obviously like the stress or demands of work?
It's very difficult, if I'm honest, because I work in an environment as well where I cover Asia and LATAM. So the time zones make it really hard. So your day is never 9 to 5, I would say. But I've been 21 years with my firm, so I think I know it well. So that gave me a bit of a benefit.
Yeah.
I think the way I look at things is I don't mind doing things late at night or working kind of odd hours if I have that flexibility in the day, if I have been able to get my exercise in, and if I have been able to go out for a walk. Because that's the other thing. It's like not only just doing your exercise, but actually getting some fresh air every day.
It's so underrated, just taking that.
So underrated. And so if I feel happier in myself once I've done things like that in my day, so I just try to get time to make sure I've done that. And then I don't mind if I'm on early in the morning with Asia or late at night with the US, because it's an American bank. So, but we're getting better as a firm as well about kind of balancing people's time, people trying not to contact people after 7 o'clock,
Do you find that, like, phone off, like emails off?
Well, not everyone. Like, my boss in America was like, she has this thing on her email, I'm not going to contact you, or don't respond after 7 p.m. because I don't expect you to. But yet, I get WhatsApps at 8:30. I'm like, okay, maybe it's 7 p.m. in America. I get that though. I do, like, because you're setting your expectation of when you want to be at work. Do you know? Like, I might not contact you after 7 o'clock, and then it's like my discretion if I do, but they're not expected to get reply back. Do you know? Yeah, exactly. But then I took a few days off at Easter, and to be fair, as I say, as a firm, we're trying to make sure we're not contacting people over holidays. Like, when people are off, they're off. because that's not the way we used to work. It's like everyone's available at any time. It's like you're expected to kind of dial into meetings and do that. So you're not off when that's the case.
Yeah.
But
There's no way. Even working in that environment, there's not really like a switch off point.
No. But interestingly, I think it was Easter Thursday and Good Friday. Obviously, it was off anyway. But my CEO in the business was obviously looking for me, and he WhatsApped me. But then he'd obviously sent an email, saw my out of office, and refused for me to talk to him. He was like, "Nope, you're out.
It's your time.
It's your time.
Yeah.
You're out.
No, that's good.
It's gonna wait." Now that's the first time that's ever happened to me in 21 years. But at least if everyone starts doing that, that's where the change will happen. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't work Fridays, which helps balance things as well with kids and family.
Spreading your time.
Spreading my time,
yeah.
even though that hasn't worked that great in the last year, because
Being at home. Okay. Would that have been different having gone into
Yes,
this?
because when I'm not in the office, you're more out. You're not as engaged. So that is different in lockdown. But at the same time, if there's balance in the week, I tend to don't mind doing it.
What has been your biggest lesson along the way on this journey that you've gone from not massively being into fitness, but always kind of been
Chipping away.
Okay.
My massive lesson. I think it would be never try new things.
Yeah.
Be open-minded.
And not constantly being like, no, well, it's not for me.
And don't beat yourself up over things. And as I say, I came back again. I could have easily given up and not come back and just be one of those people that CrossFit isn't for me.
Yeah. And then tried something, just kept doing that whole thing.
And it'll just show don't give up, and try things more than once, because experiences can be different.
Yeah, both positive and negative.
Both positive and negative. So that's been the big kind of lesson. The other thing I would say is around the nutritional piece and the alcohol piece, I guess I really shifted from looking at, always, growing up, it's always about what you eat and what you weigh and how you look. Whereas now I'm more inclined to look at nutrition in terms of performance and helping you actually be better.
Yeah,
that's a shift.
Yeah, which is amazing to hear, because often people chase an image, but actually when you aim to improve your performance and eat to fuel that performance, an often byproduct of that is an aesthetic result. However, although we don't, our aim is for everyone internal happiness. We don't care what people look like; it's how they feel about themselves. But often it does. If you focus around the performance element, you get that outlook of I'm in what's deemed as good shape. But you tend to feel naturally better anyway, because the food that you're putting in is good food. So the output that you do, you're going to perform well.
Yeah, but that's a real shift in how you think about food. Whereas a lot of women, I would say, think about it differently.
Yeah.
But now with CrossFit and with doing some of the nutritional challenges, I think about it slightly differently.
Yeah, because you also done January's nutrition.
I did January's nutrition. And that was really eye-opening in terms of that mental shift and how you look at what you're putting in your body.
Yeah.
That was, again, because I was doing it, I would say that was it's educating yourself, isn't it? It's all about education and
I'm not feeling like we've always learn it all.
Yeah.
There's so much more to learn, all the time. Even in my job, I try to learn as much as I can every day.
Exactly.
Through experiences with people, or through things that I'm, other jobs that I'm doing.
Yeah, but again, something like that, I would say, benefited the whole family. Because you're on a journey there. I particularly loved the daily tasks was amazing. Because that kept the engagement in it. Every day. You kind of there was the excitement of what you were going to be asked to do
the next
day, and but then it was actually trying something new and thinking about your different meals and what you could cook and you know.
That's good. And then support system wise, obviously I'd say like it sounds like family has been your support system at the moment.
Family has been, I didn't even tell people I was giving up alcohol, if I'm honest, for months, because I just didn't know. And as I say, because I didn't put any pressure on myself, I was like, I had nothing really to say, because it was like, you know, people would be like,
why are you doing it?
Why,
you're nuts.
or
Like,
how long?
You can't do that.
Yeah, and I didn't have the answers. So I was like, okay, I don't have the answers, so I'm just going to go through this myself. And obviously I talked to Donal about it because he knew. And then I was doing all that educating. And then as I realised that this is such a huge benefit to me, then I started telling people, and they were like, oh my God. I mean, literally like, well, if you can give it up, then anybody can.
Yeah,
and particularly at work. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. If I can do it, anyone can.
And it takes someone else to do something, or started to get that self-belief to go, well, if they can, then I can.
It's all about the mind, though. You have to have that mind in the place. I mean, initially when I did it, I'm like, okay, I'm actually going to go to the doctor, because if the doctor says that I've done any kind of damage to my liver, then I'll definitely have to. So I did that, and I went and got my blood test. They're like, nah, your liver's fine. I was like, oh God. Okay, so I don't have that to fall back on. But you know, in a way that kind of spurred me on, because it was like, I thought I would need it for the
health,
stick.
Okay.
To kind of go, you need to cop on now.
Yeah. Like, it's bad news that you kind of want it.
Exactly, to help keep you motivated. But in another way, it worked, because it's like, okay, so, you know, it's the fact that I haven't done, then it's still good to make sure you're keeping healthy, etc. So, yeah,
that's good. And then maybe because it's similar answers before, but obviously being at home, but or anything that's been really influential to you, or over the last like 9 months, or is it just like this was a personal thing? It was something that I wanted to do for me. There was a support network, but it was ultimately, there was nothing outside of that really inspired me. It was just purely because of me.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a bit.
Because often people look for inspiration from other people.
Yeah, but other people need different things to be able to do it, and it depends who you are, and it's one of those things where there's no right and wrong in any of it. Everyone needs to find their zone, and what drives them and what help they need. It just so happened that, you know, what I implemented worked for me. It won't work for everyone, but you need to find that and be open to what works. And everything I did just gave me that motivation to keep going. How I felt, like I was happier. I was happier not drinking and doing CrossFit. Like that's the, you know, and when you're a drinker, that's when you know the bad days, you then go give yourself excuses to not do CrossFit.
Yeah. I've had a shit day, I'll have a drink, I won't go to gym, I won't go and do an exercise.
But it's not, I mean, other people do need a lot more support and a lot more people to talk to. And, you know, I was lucky in that Donal was very supportive of it, because, you know, there's other people that I guess if you're in situations where as a couple you drink a lot together and then one gives up, that can
or one
be
doesn't
really,
want to do it.
That can be really hard. So I was lucky in that he was very supportive, so none of that really came into it. And it was almost then, you know, I mean, I think anyone who does CrossFit as well is quite competitive, and I am quite competitive. So then it was a challenge to me to keep going, and you kind of. And
now it kind of really got into the fact it was you versus you.
It was me versus me, really, yeah. So I was, and I just, anytime I thought of I have just one, it was like all I could think of was the disappointment in myself that I would feel the next day. That's all I could think of. So then that was my derailer. It's like, no.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So it was literally competing with myself. But it's funny, because I said to Dawn recently, I was like, I didn't know how I'd feel once I met the year mark, because it's like, well, what am I challenge? Yeah, what am I? And I still haven't even thought about having a drink, and I just go, if I've lasted, my mind now is if I've lasted a year, I can.
And it's funny because it doesn't actually make you feel any better for like doing it. People often go drinking socially or whatever makes me feel better. It might make someone for 10 minutes or that hour or a couple of hours that they're having a drink, but instantly the next day it's like, regardless of how much they drank, it's like it was pointless. Like it was.
And that's the thing, but that's exactly it, because that's when I was doing all my reading and stories and people's lives. The buzz is so temporary.
Yeah, and it's often people depend on that to bring out their personality. When actually, really, the reality is if they put themselves around the same people, similar mindset, that personality would probably naturally come out anyway.
Exactly.
But it's like a coping mechanism for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the plans for you for the next 6 to 12 months? Have you thought ahead what you want from your fitness, what you want from the world?
I just want to continue getting better at CrossFit, at lifting, at everything. I just, I'm not aggressive in goals or targets, but just continually improve. I have my benchmark with the boys as well as to what we're doing, and just really continue on that same journey with balanced nutrition behind it, really, and that's
just enjoying the process.
Because the other thing is, it's like you don't have to be doing something new all the time.
Yeah, and
actually maintaining is a goal in itself. And
that's interesting that you say that. People often chase like, I need something new.
You don't.
It's not the biggest. It shouldn't be. It definitely shouldn't be your biggest motivator. But it doesn't have to be something new. It can be something that you're repeatedly doing. You're just improving on what you're doing.
Exactly. So I think just maintaining now that I've kind of got both sides, the nutrition and the alcohol, it's just continuing to see how I can improve on everything, really.
Amazing. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Amazing story.
Thank you.
No problem.
Training me.
It's good to share people's stories and experiences, and hopefully there could be someone that watching this that is.
And I'm very happy. And that's
position.
The other thing. If anyone is struggling or wanting to give up, I'm very happy to help and share my perspectives as well. So I mean, and in a way, I wish I had someone I could have talked to, maybe.
Yeah, mentor,
that's in a similar type, doing CrossFit as well. Because that's always good, but I'm very willing to help anyone that wants.
Amazing. There you go. There's an offer you can't refuse. Join us back next week for another episode of the CrossFit Harrow podcast.